absolutely devastating.
This is Joey Owens' show. They've been trying to get me on this podcast forever, and this is the worst damn podcast I've ever been on. So you all can kiss my ass while I win this match.
All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to G.W.R. Gonzo'S Wrestling Room. Monday, April 10th, 2023. I'm Chris Gonzo'S, joined by Tony Gonzo'S. How's it going?
Oh, not too bad.
And then also joined by Marcus Fine. How's it going, Marcus?
I'm doing all right, thank you.
My head's in one piece. So still attached to my neck, so I'm okay.
It's always a good thing. Shouldn't have put your head in there.
You'll never hear the end of that.
Nope.
All right. That all you go ahead and get started while I'll get going.
What's that?
We're doing the countdown thing.
Okay. Well, Mark, did you have a good weekend?
Yes, we did. Had a good weekend. It was a long weekend, but it was a good one.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started with the shows that you've seen this weekend, and then we'll talk about the shows that we've seen this weekend.
All right. Friday was at the Dub. They probably had 80% capacity, which was pretty good considering the Squared Circle Expo is literally around the corner from them.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Still pretty hot crowd. Some of the matches. Jordan James defended his gunslinger title against Jake Phoenix. Jake Phoenix is the guy that used to be Ref Daddy. Is now Jake Phoenix, and he's coming along pretty good. It was a pretty good, solid match. Jordan beat him, of course. In a match that we were surprised to see, IK3 defeated Blake Money Wright. We were surprised to see both of them guys, but you know what kind of match that would have been. Fantastic. And then Ruthless Domination defeated Brody Botkins and Jackson Morgan in the main event. Ruthless kept their titles. 2 weeks they're going to have a rematch, and if Brody and Jackson win, then at the end of the month they get a title shot. So I'm kind of seeing that's probably where that's headed. So, and then Saturday we traveled back to Kentucky, Frankfort, Kentucky, the debut show of Elite Wrestling Alliance. They had some guys on there that we knew. We went down to see Scott Diamond, who we had on here a few weeks ago. Yep. So I seen his son and Scott. Scott did commentary for that podcast there, and his son sat out in the audience with his girlfriend. But Scott did commentary for that podcast there. So okay, yeah. Couple of the shows, they instead of having a Royal Rumble, they called it a Rumble Royale, 20 men. The first match they had was the winner gets number, I think it was 20. I think they had 20 people. And the loser gets number 1. So the first match, and I know these are people you probably haven't heard of because I'm still not that familiar with them myself. First match was Wild, that's why he's known, Wild Cameron Walker. He lost to Marty Clay, so Cameron Walker had to enter the Rumble at 1 and Marty at last. The match of the night next to the Rumble, I thought it was Jacob Ratliff. He took on Dwayne Davis in a Fight Club Open Challenge. Submission or pass out. No DQ. They only used the chair once, but most of it, they were beating the hell out of each other. And ended up that the referee called it when Jacob knocked out Dwayne Davis. So, I mean, it was fantastic. They were right in front of us for a good portion of the match, and they were really hitting hard. And then Marty Clay won, which is the guy that went in last, won the Rumble Royale. Him and a guy named Omega, they were the last two, and they were both on the ring apron fighting each other. I bet 10 minutes trying to knock the other one off. I never seen so many moves performed on a ring apron as they did then, but Marty Clay ended up winning it. So that They probably had 80 people. When I talked to you earlier, it was 60, but I don't get them coming in late. I'm
Yeah.
always one of the first people at the doors, but then you get after the first bell, and then you still got people coming in. It's like I don't understand that, but
That was their first show, wasn't it?
yeah, I didn't I did not realize it was their debut show until there's a lady named Nancy. She's seen us out in the parking lot. She's kind of like we are. She's like the Kentucky super fan. She comes up here. She's been to AACW. She's a friend with Johnny Suede. And we go down there. So we get out of the car and she goes, well, look who showed up. It's like, so she filled me in. She knows a lot of the guys. Like I know the guys up here. She knows the guys down there. So
Yeah.
Fantastic. I told the promoter, thank you. And we'll be down. I just don't know when, but we will definitely go back. Beautiful facility. I think it used to be a church. Now they use it as an educational center. And it was in the gym. And yeah, they treated us right and fantastic.
That sounded like a pretty good show. That's that Rumble Royale sounded pretty interesting.
Yeah. And every one of those wrestlers were solid. They knew how to work the crowd. They knew how to work. It wasn't any rookies. You could tell these guys were seasoned, every one of them. So
cool.
And Carson Drake was advertised. He just wasn't there. I think he was somewhere else. But I was surprised because, like, oh, if Carson Drake's there, then that'd be interesting if he caught wind of us. But he wasn't there. But he does work for him, or will. So
yeah, I seen Carson's one of his homes, Cincinnati, one of the shows that we did, announced their next show, but we're already going to be somewhere. I can't remember when it is. It's a Sunday. It's one of them Sunday shows. We're going to be somewhere already. They're going to do a Sunday show, which kind of surprised me. Down there at that theater, I seen. Well, we had a busy weekend. We had two shows. Saturday, we had DCCW Invasion 4, fundraiser for the Jay County wrestling team. And thought it was a real good show. Had some pretty interesting matches. Got some new champions crowned. We had Jordan James win the U.S. championship from Jackson Morgan. Kind of stole one there, but he's a new champ there. Also got new tag team champions. In a fantastic match with the highlight reel and the Beaver Boys in a no DQ match. They were all over that place, put on a heck of a show. One of the better matches I've seen this year, maybe the best. I mean, it's right up there. But the Beaver Boys beat the highlight reel and pulled out some moves I'd never seen before. They did a slingshot move through a table that was outstanding and ended the match with a blockbuster off the top rope. It was really good match. So I had a real good show. Also another great match on the show was G.W.R defeating IK3. It was a fantastic match too. That could main event anywhere, which of course you know that too. But it was fantastic. Another match I was really thrilled was the teacher versus the student, JKO against Zay Gates. I thought that was a really, really good match. And then also Savage Love making their third show now? I think I'm making third show with DCCW and took on Brody Bodkins and Logan Myers. A team that's not teamed together a whole lot, but just two great talents, and it was a heck of a match too. So a really good card, a really great show, and over 400 people. I heard a couple of different totals, but I know over 400. What do you think of the show?
Good. I heard.
No, I thought the show was real solid. Really enjoyed the Dex and IK3 match there at the end. Like you said, the Beaver Boys and highlight reel match was outstanding. I thought Rachel and the King put on a good show too. The crowd was really into it. Really got behind Rachel. They weren't very happy with Rachel lost.
No,
but they
was not happy Rachel lost.
But no, it was a good crowd. I heard I'm like you, a little over 400 people there. And everybody I talked to seemed to really enjoy it.
Yeah,
so.
I think I think everybody was pretty happy with the show. So I think they did pretty well. I think they probably raised a lot of money for the wrestling team. I'm not sure with what sponsorships they had and everything, but I think they did very well. I know they did very well last year, and I would say they did just as well, or probably maybe even better.
Yeah, I think they had probably. I think they had a little bit bigger crowd this year. They had a pretty good crowd last year too, but I would say this year's was a little bit bigger. But no, all in all, it was, another great show by DCCW, and looking forward to next month.
Yep, should be a great show. I know AJ was looking. AJ Bradley, he's the coach of the Muncie Central Wrestling Club, and that's the next show for DCCW, a fundraiser for Muncie Central Wrestling Club, Bearcat Rumble 3.
Yes,
if I remember correctly, and it'll be at, I believe, if I'm correct, at Central High School, and so that's going to be May 13th. Haven't announced any wrestlers yet, who's going to be on the show, but I'm sure that's going to come very soon, and I think it'll be a great show. I'm not expecting anything, but definitely looking forward to that. Kelly writes, Zay's come a long way. Yes.
Yeah, he wrestled Friday, but now I cannot remember who he took on.
I tell you what, he's so excited about the wrestling. He's got his shirts, and I know Marcus said he got one of his shirts. And
oh yeah,
he pretty much sold out. He is so excited. He's having a lot of fun. And another thing I want to mention real quick on DCCW was had some debuts at the show. Some guys that we hadn't seen. Well, one I hadn't seen before in that first match. It was Blaze, right?
No, it was
Phoenix.
It was Phoenix.
Oh, okay. I said Blaze. Okay,
Jake Marcus was
yeah, he's
about.
seen. I'd never
okay.
seen.
Well, so you've seen Jake Phoenix then?
I've seen Jake Phoenix. I hadn't seen him before.
Yeah, he was there Saturday night.
Yes.
He
Yeah,
was
he's come a long way. He used to ref, and then he went to wrestling. I think that was part of his training. But yeah, I PM Jake was Saturday and said, "Hey, you've come a long way," because he held his own with Jordan James, and you couldn't tell that he was still rather rookie. And
yeah, that was Phoenix and Herdari and Christian Cash. So Cash made his debut at DCCW, and then another debut. Chris, you're going to have to help me with his name. He tag team with TJ Powers.
Justin Terrell.
Justin Terrell. I don't know why I can never remember his name. I know his real name. But I know what his real name is, but I can't never remember his wrestling name.
yeah, he'll come over and smack you next week.
I probably would. I would just put my head in a trunk.
Hey, you're the one that said it.
But we had some debuts and stuff, so that's always cool. Getting some different people in there. So
You act like it would have hurt you. You'd been all right. You're so little. You just flipped up into the trunk and.
No, what would happen? My head would have come off. My head would have been rolling around in the trunk, and my body would have been flipping around, and you would have never got me to the hospital.
Since we're picking on you now, I guess we'll tell you what me and Kelly talked about. Well, we was in Frankfort, Kentucky. That's major beef and horse racing. You know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
And I said we could have a farm just like that. We already have the jockeys set up. It's like
I was probably maybe 18, 19 years old, and was offered a job to be a jockey. I was working at a restaurant, and I was a bar back in the bar there, and a guy offered me to go live on his Kentucky farm. And
they're beautiful. Oh man, they are beautiful down there. And we were surprised there was more cattle. I mean, we're talking 100 to 200 herd farm people. Huge cattle herds. So we see more cattle than we did horse, but
in my defense, I never thought you would stick your head in a trunk.
Well, wait a minute, Chris. If I'm going to stick my arms in there, I've got these little T-Rex arms. My whole body's going to have to go into the thing to try to look. And I said, let me take a look. I think it was a set. I said, I'm going to take a look. And he just, that's what I think.
I remember him saying, let me take a look.
I did say that.
I was trying to figure out why it wouldn't shut. And then I started to shut it, and it was shut. So I almost shut it.
I don't know who laughed harder. I don't know if Rachel's grandma laughed harder or Bobby laughed harder. They both were cracking up.
Well, they sure weren't helping you, though, were they?
I asked Bobby, I said, where was you? And he just...
That's payback for you trying to get me beat up by Bobby by telling him I wasn't going to take him to get no food.
Yeah, I did tell. But he asked.
I don't know Bobby, but I know he likes his food. So
he loves McDonald's, and he was asking for McDonald's on the way home. And I said, well, let me talk to Chris. And I come back in. I said, Bobby, I said, Chris said you didn't need no McDonald's. And I started laughing, and and Bobby's fist is about, I mean, his fist is humongous. And he was doing, I said, I'm just teasing. I said, he didn't say that. Okay, well then on Sunday we went to Summit Pro. Another real good show by Summit Pro. Had some real good matches. What do you think the best match was on that show? I know there was a couple that we both really liked.
Oh man, I really liked Del Patricks and Juwan Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one I pick, and I wasn't even there. So
Yeah.
And I thought I liked the main event as well. I thought the main event was good. Or not the main event, Crowley match.
Yeah.
Usually it's the main event.
Yeah,
But it wasn't the main event.
Yeah, Crowley and
Cameron Canyon. I
Cameron
thought that
Canyon.
was good.
who was the main event then?
it was the tag team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because it was crowning champions, and it was a 4-way, and it was a little bit different rules. It was an elimination match, and so you could get counted out, you could get disqualified, pinfall or submission, and also elimination style. One guy could get eliminated, but the other guy stayed in. So you had to eliminate both guys from the tag team, and it was surprising because Kemp got eliminated first, and Holiday kind of ran the gauntlet and made it through, and Kemp and Holiday are the champions over the Sharp Brothers and the Awesome Odyssey and the Original Sins.
Yeah, Kemp came back out there at the end and helped Holiday.
Because the guy was in there.
The Original Sins guy wouldn't leave.
And so he came out and made sure that he got out of the way. So that was a strong match too. Hillbilly Jed and Jeremy Hadley was a lot of fun. Also got to see the Easter Bunny beat up Jeremy Hadley. That's always a good thing too. Anytime you see Hadley get beat up, that's a good thing.
Yeah, Hadley didn't have a good day yesterday.
No, Hadley didn't have a good time. Easter was not good to Jeremy Hadley. Also, another interesting match was Jordan Dye and Sage Phillips as a tag team, which these guys have been feuding for 2 or 3 months, and they put them as a tag team, and it didn't work out too good for them. They got defeated by the 8-Bit Punks, but Dye and Phillips are going to have a I Quit match next month at the show, so that should be really good. So, and I got a feeling, I don't know if it'll be this coming month, but soon, I think Juwan Thomas is going after Alice Crowley. That would definitely seem like the direction to me, but we'll see.
Yeah. Kemp and Holiday are the tag champs for Emerge too. So, and Roger was at Emerge Saturday, and he said it was a sellout, and they did just as awesome as they normally do as well. So,
yeah, I got to get to one of those shows because they sound like they're one of the better companies. Not that anybody's bad around here, but one of the stronger companies around.
They brought in a Impact guy, but I couldn't tell you who it was.
Yeah, Juwan and Patrick's I thought was excellent.
And it started with Patrick's being the jackass that he can be. He had a 6 or 7 minute intro, the Queen song Bohemian Rhapsody. That took forever, and then he comes out before the bell rings. A slap to the nether regions, and
he was just cracking up the whole time. But yeah, that entrance was crazy. The crowd was singing the song, and everybody just waiting for him to come out.
Actually, after that, after Thomas weathered that,
Thomas
he pretty much took over the match. I wouldn't say it was a squash by any means, but he controlled a big part of that match. Juwan did, and a great performance by both guys, but especially Juwan.
It was another real solid show by Summit Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like this.
So what are we doing here?
That's my clock. Well, that's my clock going off. See, when it gets bright in here, it's done by the daylight. So it's 7 o'clock. It'll stop here right now. Now, if we're on at 8, you'll hear it again. So be a different tune, though.
He looked at me like it was my fault. Like I was doing something.
I figured he pushing buttons again. Who knows? I don't trust you.
That's our clock. That's our clock up there.
I think last month's show was still a little bit stronger than this month's, but this month was still a good show.
Good. Damn, yeah, they're getting on a roll. They're really getting. I mean, they've been a little over a year now, and they're really putting on some good shows.
And they had a good crowd, especially for being a Easter Sunday. actually they had probably a bigger crowd than what I was really expecting.
They didn't put out that many cheers, to be honest with you. They probably will put out maybe 45, 50 cheers, and they had to add another 20, 25 cheers. So, I mean, not a super great crowd, but a good crowd considering being Easter Sunday. Probably 75, 80 people there, and crowd was a good crowd. You know, so
and we saw a lot of regulars, but then we also saw some new people too. So that was always it's always good. A lot of quite a few kids showed up for the Easter egg hunt. I thought that was pretty
That's
cool.
good.
Yeah, the camps down there in Greenfield are doing a great job of building that company, and really impressed, you know, with what they're trying to do. So it was definitely a lot of fun. Let me answer Damien's question here. A couple of them. He had one here. What are your thoughts on Mr. McMahon losing voting control rights to WWE? I think he's referring to the fact that the other the board owns WWE board owns 49 and the UFC side, whatever that name of that company is right now, Endeavor owns 51%. I assume that's what he's talking about.
I don't know. I mean, we are. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think that's going. If it's just that's not going to be that big.
I don't think it's going to. I heard it's going to be two separate things. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. I think that they know that. I think they're going to try to help to make the company bigger. I don't think there's going to be any big issues.
Like I said, when Endeavor first bought UFC, they didn't make a whole. It wasn't like they just came in and made a bunch of wholesale changes. So I don't.
The only concern I would see as an employee of WWE offices and stuff like that, if they can think that, hey, we can have office people that we already got working for us do some of the.
Oh, another Jim Herd thing.
That happens sometimes when, you know, I'm not saying it's going to happen in that situation, but it happens sometimes when a takeover. Sometimes people lose jobs in the office scenery. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think Triple H is going to keep control of the creative for the most part, I think, but we'll see. I know some people don't believe that, and you know I could be naive, and you can't go by what the dirt sheets say, because I doubt if 50% of what they say is true. So
Damon said he would super chat to see you go through a table.
Well, that was talked about too. They was talking about wanting me to go through a table with Devon being there. I said, I'm not going through no table. And they was like, oh, we'll get a small table. That doesn't make no difference with a small table.
Hey, Daniel, I actually have one in there, an old WWF clock that plays the entrance theme songs. I never thought about digging that up and putting the batteries back in it.
Yeah, that would be all right.
I'll have to do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Hey, how's it going, Billy?
Billy?
Not a whole lot to report on the WWE and AEW. With that WWE, with the WrestleMania ending, they're heading into stories into the summer. So not a lot to report on that. The biggest thing is where they're going with Cody, which they went with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, Brock and Cody.
I think the story is going to be a lot of hard times for Cody for a while. And I think that's the route they're going to go. I don't know when Cody's going to get another crack at the belt. I do know in the speech that Paul Heyman said he would not get a shot at this pay-per-view. He would not get a shot at Money in the Bank. He would not get a shot at SummerSlam. He wouldn't get a shot at the Royal Rumble. So what does that leave? WrestleMania. So I think another shot would be. I think the main event of the next WrestleMania is probably going to be Roman and Cody again after Cody goes.
They got a year to build that because remember last year he got hurt, so it kind of lost a lot of storytelling time with Cody.
And Billy Ray made a great point because if you have Cody come back, he came back, had 3 wins over Seth Rollins, gets hurt, comes back, has a couple wins on TV, wins the Royal Rumble first, then has a couple, at number 30, and then wins a couple of matches on TV, beats Solo Sikoa, his first loss, and have him win the belt. That's not Rhodes like.
No.
So I do think hopefully the other main event will be Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. I think that's where they're going. They're about 25 years old. They're the future of the company. I'm not trying to take anything away from Becky or Charlotte, but
they've done their time. It's time to let the next set have it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And they've got a lot of young people coming up from NXT that's going to be knocking at the door pretty soon too. So
Billy says, in the long run, do you think they will screw over Cody? No, I don't. I think he'll end up getting his shot at being champion.
the only thing is, in Rhodes fashion, I question how long he might have it because
we'll go over that in a little bit. So
Dusty never held the belt very long.
And then in AEW, I'm not a big AEW fan, but I did like the MJF promo when he came and him coming out singing
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra. I did like that.
He was all in.
He was all in.
I mean, and he's not wasn't a terrible singer, and he was all in. I mean, it was definitely different. And the crack he made at Jungle Boy. What was that again? You remember?
Oh,
it was classic. Had Chris Rowland. I think I was in the kitchen when he said it.
I can't remember exactly. Let me think about it.
Okay, but it was a good one. It was Piper-esque. It was a pretty good. It was pretty good. But I just think they're not setting him up for success with the challengers they're giving him. That's just my opinion. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But they announced a big thing for AEW for a positive that they're going to have a show coming up in England at Wembley Stadium.
And that's sold out SummerSlam 92.
Yeah, August or September, something like that. I think August maybe. But they're going to do a big show in Wembley. I think they'll do really well there. So because they got a lot of fans in England, so I think they'll do well. So
it's going to be all in, isn't it? I think it's what
maybe. It may be.
I wonder if they'll do that like they did. Do you remember when they did SummerSlam 92? Since the time lag is so, if I remember right, they filmed that and ran the pay-per-view the next day because of the time difference, the considerable time difference between the two.
Well, when they was at the Clash at the Castle, that was like an afternoon show, wasn't it? When WWE put it on live, Clash at the Castle, I think it was on like.
Oh yeah, like noon, wasn't it? Something like that.
Noon or 1 o'clock or something like that. So it'll probably be what they'll do. I would assume.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but I do know that.
Yep.
The one with the Bulldog and Bret Hart, they did it at night and then showed it the next day because
and I know some of the when they do boxing over there, a lot of those start like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
How do you rate that match? You mentioned that Bulldog and Bret. I thought that's one of the better matches of all time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the storyline behind it and having the sister involved. That's when we found out that Bret and Bulldog were related, and because nobody knew that until the promos started cutting, because that was still, behind closed doors. And then bringing in Diana, that her name was Bulldog's wife and Bret's sister, and I thought it was well done. And then to have Bulldog win it, that's what needed to take place.
Yeah, Damien, I did see a post, but I don't think it was from the WWE. I think it was from one of the dirt sheets that Dom and Rhea was expecting a baby. Dom's got a different girlfriend, and Rhea's got a different boyfriend that wrestles in AEW. Used to be in WWE. But, he's part of that one group in there, the Black.
Yeah, he was sitting there at
he was sitting
at the Hall of Fame when they got up and walked and left.
Is that the guy that got up?
Yep.
With him, okay.
Yep. So
I don't think in real life Dom could handle Rhea. I think.
I don't know if there's very many people can handle Rhea.
Although, hey, prison changes a man.
That's one thing, man. Dom has done an incredible job. He was on SmackDown Friday night, and the heat that he had with that crowd was unbelievable. And he went to speak, and they went nuts. And you see Finn and you see Damian Priest just loving it. I mean, just laughing and just loving the heat that he's got. And and stories came out about Finn Balor. He wrestled hurt during that WrestleMania. Not only did he end up getting a split head, he had something tore about 4 weeks before that, and he wrestled injured anyway. Wow. So he deserves a lot of credit, and ended up with a split head too. I forget, they said 16 staples, I think they said.
Went injured, got injured more.
Yep. So, move on to our topics. We had a couple. We had the best big man from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if I remember correctly, we had great champions also from that time. So, Marcus, what do you want to start with? You want to start with the big man, or you want to start with the
Yeah, we
champions?
know okay with the big men because I think once we start champions, because I wrote down all the champions for the AWA, the NWA, and the WWF from 60 to 90.
How many
Yeah,
do you have?
so well, you'd be surprised what I ran across when I went through this. So,
Yeah.
well, so let's do the big men first.
I should
Okay.
have brought me some popcorn for this one because 60s, 70s, 60s and 70s, I wasn't even around yet.
Well, there's some interesting stuff that come to light that I was impressed by, but
Daniel Furo said that the Bulldog was supposedly a mess, and that Brett had to pretty much, sounds like, carry him through most of that match.
is that because he was like on drugs or something, or was he hurt, or
He
because I
could
know
have been.
Bulldog had an issue with
He had some issues, yeah.
very bad issues. So
Yes. That could have been. I never heard that story. I'm definitely not saying it's not
I
true.
haven't
But
heard it either, but it doesn't surprise me.
no. During that time period, especially.
There's a book that his wife wrote that actually is barred, and I got a copy of it off eBay on a e-file, and I read it, and it's like, oh, Bulldog was not very kind. He had a really bad past.
You said substances.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If he was on substance during that match, I couldn't tell.
No, I couldn't tell neither, but now I'll go back and watch it.
Yep, I
I
will.
just actually watched that like a month ago.
Really?
That's where that's when the Road Warriors come out there with that motorcycle, and Paul Ellering had that stupid puppet.
Puppet. Well, you know the other story about that too? That Hawk was messed up.
Kelly's a popcorn eater, Chris.
She said, "Thanks, Chris. Now I want popcorn." I love popcorn as well.
Hawk was messed up, and I'm trying to remember if it was Hawk that hurt himself. I think that he parked, if I remember right,
Oh my goodness,
parked too close to the motorcycle they drove down there, and he parked
his leg.
The animal, and when the animal got off, he burnt his leg.
I think that's
right. It was either Hawk. One of them burnt their leg really bad.
Yeah, I heard that. I think it was Animal because Animal's the one that tells it. Yeah,
because Hawk was messed up on substances at that time. I think that was the last match he had with WWE for quite a while.
Could have been
that show, and then he was gone, and Animal was there by himself because they kind of parted ways for a while.
But yeah, that stupid puppet kind of.
Oh yeah, that was crazy. That puppet stuff was. But you know, Vince was.
What's up,
Chris?
Hey,
Tony, tell Chris he needs to enter that contest.
Yeah, Chris, you need to enter that contest. You've never wrestled in DCCW, and you should definitely enter that.
I'll send you the information for. I'll have to do it after the show because I can't do it on my phone. I don't have the graphic on my phone where I can send it, but I'll send it to you on Messenger, Chris, here after the show.
Yeah, you definitely should enter. Yeah, I'd like to see you.
I'd like to see a lot of you wrestlers enter.
Yeah, I'd like to see some people enter, please.
Yeah, please enter.
I'm gonna share that graphic again today.
And knowing the ladies' man Mike King and Jared Bird, whatever we'll call him, great promoter. I know they're gonna treat you guys well and treat you right. So I have no qualms about that. So
hello, Mike King, you cannot enter because you're already there. So
yes, that's right.
In case you decide you're going to enter your own promo,
he may show up in the mask.
Well, I'm thinking like a Dude Love type of thing. He'll come up with a different gimmick.
He said he might not need that contest. So
well, maybe not.
Maybe Bearcat Run will be a good place to see you. But of course, it won't be that show, will it? Yeah, it'll be that show, right?
Yeah, yep. It'll be that show.
Goes, yeah. Yep. Well, we're all three scheduled to be there, so
it's for the May 13th show.
Yep, we're all three scheduled to be there.
Yeah, you'll have to come over and do some commentary with us.
I will do that. Give Kelly the camera because she does just as well. It seems she does a good job when I'm commentating.
Well, okay, Marcus, if you want to go ahead and start on the big men.
All right. Well, I just started writing down big men that I knew. Everybody should know what the number one big man in the world of wrestling is. Who is it, Chris?
It's Tony. The Giant. Andre.
Try to be the headless horseman.
We all know how Andre did. First one that came to mind was actually the McGuire twins. They were actually Guinness Book of World Record holders. Do you remember them? They rode on motorcycles. They didn't wrestle very long, and I don't know that I've ever seen anything that they wrestled.
Oh,
But they were
NG,
the world's largest twin.
NGW is the 20th, I believe.
NGW is the same day?
I don't think
didn't think so.
I
No,
don't think
that's the
it's the
22nd.
Yeah, that's April.
April 22nd.
No, do they have one at May though?
Man, if they do, I won't be there. I'll be at DCCW.
Yeah, I'm not sure about May, so I'm not. I can't answer.
That could be because that could be the Burnersville show.
It could be.
Could be.
They you see they announced a big match for the
NGW?
yeah, for the 22nd.
Myers and Congo?
No, Hillbilly Jed and the champion
Levi.
Oh, well, I think Kelly told me that.
Yep, they just announced that a little bit ago.
Yeah, I won't be at that show. We got a family. Our niece got married, and she has a reception that day up north. So we got to go a family thing.
Now, who was the guys you mentioned on the motorcycles?
The McGuire twins, Benny and Billy.
I remember pictures of them on the motorcycles.
In the Guinness Book. Yeah, probably in the Guinness Book. I guess they were wrestlers. I never seen them wrestle. I never seen footage of them wrestling, but I guess they was. Haystacks Calhoun.
Yep.
He actually could wrestle, but then there was a guy named Happy Humphreys that was just a big man that really could not. My favorite. Who's my favorite? Jerry Blackwell.
Yep. Crusher Blackwell.
Yep. Bundy. I put Brody in it. Brody was more tall than he was. He was a big man. He just wasn't a.
I didn't realize how short Blackwell was. He was only 5'9".
Yeah. But that guy could drop kick.
Yeah, and he was like, if I remember right, like well over 400 pounds.
Yeah, he was
5'9".
He died in a car accident.
Yeah, but he could wrestle.
One man gang. I got Big John Stead. He was another one of those like Brody shapes. He was not like, he was just very tall.
Yep.
Brody was very tall. I don't know about Earthquake. I think that might be getting into the 90s. I was trying to think, but I think might be.
He was in the 80s.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
I was going to say, I remember him when I was a kid.
He was around in 87, 88, 89.
Okay. So then was Typhoon as well?
Yes.
Okay, because I knew they were the tag champs.
Yeah, they were in the 80s.
Natural disasters?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And see, the thing about Earthquake, real name John Tenta, he was actually a sumo wrestler in Japan.
Yeah, I've heard that. If you remember, they did a stupid one with Yoko, and they took all the ropes off. And your favorite, Dusty Rhodes.
If you haven't watched that special they done last night on Dusty, you got to watch that.
I'm going to when I'm done with you guys. That's probably what I'm going to watch.
I watched it about 1.5 times. I watched the half of it the first time with you. Then I watched the whole thing the second time.
It was really good. It was outstanding.
Yep, Big John Stead.
And
I like One Man Gang as well.
One Man Gang and also Akeem.
And I like that gimmick too.
Oh, I loved it.
Well, that was slick, but the way Akeem used to.
Wasn't there Akeem that was in the wrong bathroom?
Yeah, Akeem.
When Mom and Franny went to the bathroom?
We was at Market Square Arena and the show was going on, and Akeem and Randy Savage's brother, Pafo had already wrestled, and they come out of the locker room and I guess decided, hey, I need to comb my hair or something. So why they went into the ladies' restroom?
Why did they not go? I would have thought they'd have their own place to take care of that.
And my daughter was, she was so small. She was like a couple years old, but she was really little. And my wife was taking her to the bathroom, and they run into Akeem, and they got pictures. And Akeem shook my little daughter's hand, and she ran into. I think another time she ran into in the news. Unfortunately, which one passed away? I think was it Butch that passed away? Yes. Was it Luke? Butch and Luke was out at the concession stand getting a Coke. and my wife ran into them there. She ran into all kinds of people. Of course, I'm sitting in there like a bump on a log. So maybe I should have went out.
You're in there with us.
Yeah, I should have went out. Maybe
If Kelly knew the bushwhackers were at the snack bar, she'd been out there.
You look. I was screwing you over back in the day.
Most definitely. I remember. I think it was maybe the first show we went to. I can't remember what match it was. Somebody took a chop and spit out a great big loogie, and it flew. And we was in the second row, and the girl was in the front. Little bitty blonde girl, I still remember, and that landed right on top of her head.
Oh,
right in front of my. Right in front of my wife, and my wife, she said, "I'm never coming back." Of course, we went back. That was the very first one we went to. But yeah, it was pretty gross. I think it might have been Savage and Beefcake. I think it might have been Savage that did it. Of course, that was one of the times it was supposed to be Hogan and Savage. It was supposed to be Hogan and Savage, and Hogan didn't show up. So, but Elizabeth was there with Beefcake. That's when they were feuding.
Yep, I remember that match.
Yep, Junkyard Dog was another big man.
Yep.
Hogan would never come.
I had Giant Baba.
Oh yeah.
Otto Wands. You remember him? He was an AWA champion. He was one of them strongmen type of big.
He says Big Cat Ernie Ladd.
Yep. Big Cat Ernie Ladd.
We didn't have him on there, and now, like I said, I know there's bunches of them I forgot. So thank you, people watching this.
And what was Ernie Ladd famous for? Tape thumb.
Spike.
Well, he'd have that tape thumb, and he'd give the thumb to the throat. He wrestled a lot. He wrestled Bruiser a lot. He wrestled in Indy and Chicago, but he wrestled all over the country.
Was he one of the first ones that kind of started doing that? What they call the Samoan Spike now?
Well, in a way, but it was just more. He would do more like a short thing to the throat, and he'd get a headlock, and he'd do that thumb, and that supposed to be a loaded thumb, supposed to have something.
You remember what his manager's name was when he worked for Bruiser?
Nope, I don't.
Tiny Hampton, which was another big man.
Yep, that's right. Now you say that. And also, Ernie Ladd played pro football. He played for a couple teams, but I know he was a pro football player for the San Diego Chargers. But he was a big dude.
Yeah,
pretty good in football because I think I've heard that name before.
He was a pretty good football player. So Bruiser played pro football, I think, with Green Bay.
Green Bay Packers, yes. And then I'll have a few more. Vader, Big Van Vader. I had Mabel, but now was he in the 80s or was he more 90s? I couldn't remember. He was still a big man, and it was still close to the 80s. So
I think he was around some in the 80s too.
He might have been 88, 89, just coming in. I know late 90s he was Viscera. But I think maybe he might have made it in the 80s too.
Because I remember watching him when I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. So I'd been 88, 89.
Yeah.
Okay. Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Big Boss Man.
Well, Gorilla had
Bubba. He was Big Bubba, and then he's the Boss Man, and they called him something. Ray Trailer, which I think actually was his real name.
Yep.
The NWO got him, but
Gorilla had matches with Bruno, and not only that, had a big match with Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember right, put Muhammad in the hospital.
Well, all I know is he picked him up in an airplane, spinned him, and dropped him. I've seen the match.
No, I take that back. He didn't put him in the hospital. It was Inoki. I put him Ali in the hospital using because Inoki kept kicking him, and they claimed that caused blood clots in his leg. But Gorilla airplane spinned him.
Yeah,
you're right.
And then I had Uncle Elmer.
Yep.
Moose Cholok, which was a bruiser. Well, he wrestled other places, but there at the end he was with Bruiser. And then Abdullah the Butcher. That's who I had for my big men, and we got some Big Boss Man. I forgot Bam Bam Bigelow. He was in that same era, and
I think we got a lot of the same ones. I got Abdullah the Butcher. He was a big dude. Of course, there was a lot of weapons. I mean, he had a lot of foreign objects with him.
Hardcore before hardcore.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. There was blood every match. Sid Vicious.
Mm-hmm.
Sid Justice.
I was never a fan of.
Never was either.
Any of the Sid characters, but
another big guy, Killer Kowalski.
Yes, and he trained a lot of people too.
Yes,
he trained China.
Another one I didn't know a lot about, but he was called the Mormon Giant, Don Leo Jonathan. He was big in the WWE.
I remember the name, but I couldn't place the face.
I remember him a little bit. Of course, you know, I think Stan Hansen, he was famous for 1976, supposedly broke Bruno Sammartino's neck. So he was definitely hated. And also with the Big Boss Man, he actually was worked at a prison in Cobb County, Georgia. That was a true story. That's where he did have a job in Cobb County. That was a story they used in wrestling, but that was true. He actually was a prison guard at one point. Let me see if I got anybody else different than you. Of course, you had Vader, who's big. Vader got to start as Leon White. He was a football player for the Rams, and then he got to start in AWA with Vern Gagne, and went on to Leon White, and then he went on to be Vader. And his popularity really started in Japan, and then he came over to NWA and WCW and WWE.
George Animal Steel wasn't before he started doing some of the gimmicky stuff. Wasn't he pretty mean back in the day?
He was vicious.
Yeah, he was mean. He was a bad heel.
Yeah.
They have classic matches out there with him and Pedro Morales and Bruno both. I'd have to say probably Andre on the go.
Yep. Yeah, another one. Billy Ray's got Stan Stasiak with a heart punch.
Yeah, he was
Ox Baker with a heart punch.
I knew I'd forget some.
Yeah, Ox Baker with a heart punch also was big around our parts in Indy and AWA in Chicago. Kamala was a good one in World Class and WWE and WCW. I don't remember. I know he wrestled in WCW, but I don't remember him that much in WCW.
Did you mention Bundy?
Yeah, King Kong Bundy. I think I had him down. I hadn't mentioned him.
It was up in the earlier parts of mine.
Let's see. Of course, Bruiser Brody.
We forgot Terry Gordy, too.
Yep. Bam Bam Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy was as good as on his own as he was as a freebird. So
yeah. Gordy was a really great wrestler too. That he didn't get the recognition for, even besides just being a big tough man. Another thing with Brody, I never see if you heard this. He one time was called the most dangerous, but he couldn't be called that when he came to Indy because Dick the Bruiser. The world's most dangerous wrestler, but he was also called the intelligent monster.
Oh, I've not heard that,
and I hadn't heard that either. Something that I seen when I was looking stuff up. Okay, I think other than that, Black Jack Mulligan.
Yes,
he was a big dude. He was
Bobo Brazil too, because he wrestled a lot of Ernie Ladd. So
yeah, Bobo was a big man. Yeah,
Inoki was a big man. Yes.
And Bobo held titles in a lot of different places too. Of course, Andre. Yeah, I mean he's the
all time.
Hey, how's it going?
There's another big man right there. Speaking of talking about big men in wrestling, there's Big Country right there. How's it going, buddy?
Big Country. Who's your favorite big man?
Probably himself. He's going to Blake you.
Oh, besides yourself.
You can't use yourself, Travis.
Chris had asked, who do you think the GOAT is of big guys?
Yeah, probably Andre.
Andre to me.
Now, to go for the second place, I'd have to really think about it.
Oh, that'd be rough.
Yeah. I said my actual favorite was Blackwell.
Yokozuna was a hell of a big man. I know he was late. He wasn't in this time period.
He was just a little bit after that, yeah.
Billy, where are you from, Billy? I met Ox Baker in Indianapolis one year.
If I remember right, Billy is in Connecticut.
Okay. Ox was a very nice man the day we met him. Me and my son ran down the Basher had him because he was going to have him on his show, and he had an autograph signing at the Kmart on Washington Street, and we ran down there, and the man was a very nice man.
I think he's still around.
Big Country said Haystack Calhoun
passed away probably
did he?
5 years ago.
Okay.
That's your favorite one, Travis? That's a pretty good one. Like I said, Haystacks could work. Yeah. Happy Humphrey couldn't. He was just a big man, but okay.
Yeah, Billy's in Connecticut. I was pretty sure, but I didn't want to.
Man, I don't know who would be number two.
No, like I said, my favorite's Blackwell and Brody. That's my favorite too.
From 60, 70, 80, yeah. I'm kind of partial to King Kong Brody too. How would Gorilla stack up? Monsoon.
Well, see, I never seen a lot of his work. I
I've
always
just
known him as a commentator. I've
yeah,
never. I mean, I've gone back and seen it, but
he wrestled Superstar Billy Graham and Bruno both a lot.
so I know there for a while at the AWA, actually Brody and Blackwell wrestled each other, and you can imagine main events everywhere. Yeah, Ox was a good man.
Damien said, "Watch your watch your Mount Rushmore big guys."
Let's see. I will go with Andre number 1,
Yep.
and for me it'd be Andre, Blackwell, Brody, and then I got to think. Oh, who number 5 would be? That's a rough one because I don't really want to put Abdullah the Butcher on there because well, you got 3 of the 4. Maybe Moose Cholak because I met Moose Cholak one time too. Yeah, Vader
I
probably.
think I'd go with Vader.
Yeah,
I think
Vader,
Andre, Brody, Vader, and I got to get my next one, and I don't have no idea.
That's probably that's right for you.
Yeah, probably your next one, wasn't it?
What, Rhodes?
Dusty.
He was a big guy, but I mean, he wasn't really.
Danny said Vader is probably his favorite just because he did things in his size should not have been able to do.
I agree.
Dusty wasn't really. I mean, he was big, but he wasn't tall.
Bam Bam was another guy like that that could really move
Bigelow.
for a big guy.
Yeah, Bam Bam Bigelow's a good one.
I seen those 2 guys wrestle in Indy one night. Big Boss Man and Big John Studd. In fact, I think I seen John Studd. Well, Bam Bam wrestled one of them on another show. I can't remember. I think it was Studd. Might have been Boss Man.
If you go by the 70s and how good he was in the 70s, Blackjack Mulligan's a good one.
Yeah, Abyss is a good one.
Yeah, but Abyss is later than the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, John Studd wasn't bad, but I never seen him win very much.
No, and Andre hated him, from what I've heard. He tried to kiss Andre's ass all the time, but Andre did not care because he didn't like the fact that John Studd went over the top rope, because that was Andre's thing, and he thought Studd should not have done that. And
he didn't like another person he didn't like was Randy Savage.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch footage of them 2 in the ring. He would go out of his way to brutalize Savage.
Well, he didn't like Iron Sheik either.
Yeah.
And, of course, he didn't like Warrior because Warrior never listened. Warrior just did his own thing, and Andre kind of had to smarten him up. But
what do you think about the Giant Baba?
He was a good one, but like I said, I've not seen a lot of his stuff. And the only reason he hit my list is because he came up as one of the champions.
Because I seen him a lot on Indianapolis TV, I'm going to go with Ernie Ladd as my 4th one.
Yeah, I think he was Bruiser's champ for a while.
Yeah. I seen him a lot because Bob Luce out of Chicago, AWA, and then I seen him, with and he wrestled in WWE too. He was a pretty big star in WWE. Yeah. I didn't get to see it during that time because we didn't have access to it.
And he said, plus Vader almost caused an international incident. Got to respect that.
Got put in jail.
What for? I don't know that I know
that reporter called it wrestling fake.
It was in Kuwait, and he started calling wrestling fake.
Okay, yes.
Undertaker's with him, and Undertaker's like, man, be cool. And he grabs that dude. And
yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yes. And Undertaker's just sat there.
Yeah.
Never moved, never twitched.
We just watched something.
Yeah, it was about that. Yeah, they talked about that. Well, because that's one reason that Kane got his opportunity. Because he was going to work a program with Vader, and Vader got locked up.
Yeah, and they were looking for, they needed a big guy.
They needed
a guy for him, and then that's when they told Taker that they were looking at Jacobs, and
Yeah, he said, yeah.
and Taker was blown away, and then that's when they came with that Kane idea to Jacobs.
Yep.
That's what it was on. It was
Yep.
on that Kane on that biography thing they done on Kane a few weeks.
Yeah, I thought that was good too.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, this year they've really. Last year's was okay, but this year they're really diving deep and dark into some of that. And
I'm looking forward to the Iron Sheik one, because I don't know a lot about Sheik.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really
okay. Did you know? And I don't know if it's still on there, but if you you got Xfinity or
yeah,
just put in Iron Sheik. There's a documentary on there about him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a WWF made one, I think.
Okay.
But he lost his daughter, and yeah, you need to look at it. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the one last night.
Yeah, it was one of the better ones, and that's one reason they said that Cody wanted to come to WWE, because they were going to allow him to be a big part of making this. That was another reason he left AEW, because he was going to have maybe even a producing role in this documentary.
Wow. Here in a few weeks, they'll start looking for treasures again. I'm ready for that one.
I think that's the 30th, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
30th of this month. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, I really like that show.
I still like to know how that guy got all those titles. Here he's got that whole room full of, well, this used to be the Southern Heavyweight Champion.
I like to know how WWE loses all
shit.
I mean, how do you lose all this stuff? I got like Kane's original mask and stuff. How do you?
It ain't just one guy. There's people all over the country that's got stuff in Memphis and here and there, New York, Connecticut. They got stuff everywhere.
So yeah, I thought I'd die with the heaven if I had an actual ring.
Well, that one lady had Andre's boots, and Mark Henry got all broke up about that.
Billy said, "What about Sergeant Slaughter?"
He was a pretty good big man. He was a vicious villain for a long time, and then a good guy, and then one of the most hated villains.
The Iraqi sympathizer. Yep.
Oh yeah, when he did that, man.
His wife was getting death threats and stuff.
They warned him though, because he said, "You're going to turn Hogan? No, we're going to turn you." Oh, are you ready for it? You know you're going to get death threats, right? He's like,
well, his wife told him no. He wasn't allowed to do it. He did it anyway.
Yeah, and he's sitting in the bank with a big bankroll right now because he did it.
Well, that's one thing they talk about, the Dusty thing and the polka dots. They talk about the polka dot. Pritchard said, yeah, Vince comes in, we're going to put him in polka dots. Lots of yellow polka dots. And Pritchard said, we thought he lost his mind. What the hell is he talking about? And they talked to Dusty's wife. Dusty said they could have put him in a big diaper. He didn't care as long as they wrote him a big check. He didn't care what
Dusty knew how to work it.
Yeah, he didn't care.
That's what polka dots up Vince's ass. Like, hey, you put me in polka dots, I'm still going to make money off this.
And that's what Cody said. He goes, I didn't see it as they were making fun of him or as a slap in the face. He said, and he took it, and if that was their plan, he took it and shoved it right back in their face.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I don't think there'll ever be another talker like Dusty Rhodes. And of course, he admitted that he kind of stole some of that stuff from Muhammad Ali. The way Ali talked, that's kind of why
some of the like jazz musicians and stuff.
Also another wrestler, Thunderbolt Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
He loved Thunderbolt, and he said he took a lot from Thunderbolt too.
Yeah, I think Thunderbolt and Irving Land had classic matches too, if I remember right.
Booker T said back in the day that Dusty Rhodes was the only black guy they had wrestling. And I mean, I remember it happening, but I didn't remember as well until we saw that about him being behind Ron Simmons getting being the champion.
Yep, that was his idea.
I remember that the night it aired.
And I was shocked that he admitted to this, because I know they had issues at times. But Bischoff said last night, because he was on some of that, he said people forget that Dusty was still a big part of our success when Nitro was beating. He was there from 96, 97, 98.
Yeah, he was headed.
He was there helping, and he also took said he also took some of the beating in 99 and 2000 also. And they also talk about him going broke and talked about the, his motto was, if you had $1, let's spend $2. So, he was all about spending money.
Well, that's how I heard him when Turner bought WCW was the
when they came in the office.
Yeah, the office people. I can't think of the word. The
office structure. He wasn't. He was a common man. He wasn't. He wasn't the guy that was going to be able to deal with office people and everything. That wasn't his cup of tea.
He didn't like being told what to do either.
No, they said that either.
He didn't like not being his own boss. And once it got into the more corporate stuff, they said he struggled with that a little bit when Turner bought it.
He said
it was good. It's real good.
He said that year and a half, especially the first year in WWE, was some of the best, funnest times he ever had. He said the last half year, it got kind of old, and he was kind of done with it. That came from Dusty. Dusty said that in an old interview. But he said the first year, he said, was some of the best, most fun he ever had.
Dusty was in the NWO.
And they showed some really touching footage of because a lot of it was real. The stuff that Dustin went to WWE to become a wrestler, and they did that thing where he's in the ring wrestling, and DiBiase and Virgil come out and attack him. And one thing I didn't know, DiBiase went to hit him with a wooden chair and hit him wrong, and really did bust him open. Said he didn't have to worry about blading. He busted him open pretty good. And Dusty came down and covered him up and everything, and was crying and everything, and told her that was a good story. And then the other one was when he was back in WCW 95, maybe was back, and he was asking to be his partner. Dusty was pleading with him to be his partner and team together and stuff. And so that was pretty cool stuff. And they went deep. They went into for the 5 years that Dustin didn't talk to Dusty. Of course, they give Marlena a lot of that blame. Mm-hmm. His wife, Terry Reynolds, a lot of that blame that she made him choose between her or him. But like Dustin said, it was his fault and Dusty's fault. That 5 years, neither one of them picked up the phone. Neither one of them did.
So we're both hard headed.
Both hard headed, both to blame. But said after they had that, they had a talk. I forget what year it was. But they had a talk, and he was with Barry Windham, and he said, your dad's going to be here at this show in Florida somewhere. And he said, yeah, I know. And he said, Dusty come out and hugged him, and he said everything was good from then on. So they worked it out, and Cody worked out things because Cody was upset with Dustin because he said Dustin had every right to be upset with his dad, but he didn't need to put it on TV.
Right.
And they did. And that was his problem.
Yeah, Cody does talk a lot like Dusty.
Yep. My wife was going crazy about that last night.
Yeah.
So why's he got a list for? I said, I don't know why he's got a list for.
Yeah, she was
all about that list. She was upset about that list.
She thinks Cody looks fake.
It's the blood because he has natural dark hair, real black hair, and he's coloring it, and it does look a little different.
She said, "Why does he look so fake?"
Like I said, Bully Ray really criticizes. He does not think that. I think he wants Cody to be more like Dusty, and I think that's one reason why Cody's not doing it. I think that's why Cody wears the suits. He thinks Bully thinks he's making a huge mistake by wearing them suits. I don't have an issue with it. I think
he looks good like that.
I think it makes him stand out because nobody else is doing it anymore.
He's being professional,
yeah. So I don't have an issue with it, but Bully hates it.
I think you're right. I think because Bully wants him to come out in like the blue jeans and the cowboy hat and stuff like his dad.
And I think that's the last thing he wants to do.
You don't want.
Then he look like Brock Lesnar does right now. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think he loves his dad, but he don't want to be his dad. I mean,
you think that Lesnar's looks going to change some since he turned?
It could. My thing is, if they're going to go, that he going to end up aligning with Heyman and them. Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think it's a separate story?
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that he might be aligning. I think Heyman's going to be with him.
Wonder if they're going to use it. The Brock's trying to get in with the bloodline.
Well, that's what we're.
And then it will end up being that. Oh, now I'm back in here, and then he'll turn on them. It's like, now I get my title shot back. So
yeah, you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Well, you want to move on to the champions of the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Where do we even begin? I will say that when I wrote them down from 60s to 1990, and the WWE only covered half a page.
Okay, yeah, because
And the
they're champions.
AWA, in the same time frame, covered the rest of that page and up the other side, and then I did the NWA, and the NWA's got quite a few too. So where do you want to start with this?
We'll want to start with the AWA.
All right. Okay, now I'll tell you the interesting stuff as it happens.
Okay.
May 18th, 1960, that's when the AWA was formed. Pat O'Connor was the first champ. And then here we go. It was Pat O'Connor, then Vern, Gene Kiniski, then Vern.
Vern
You'll see a trend here in a minute.
Yeah.
The guy was named as Mr. M. And I Googled him, and Mr. M was Dr. Bill Miller, who actually wrestled with Bruiser. And
yes, I remember Dr. Bill Miller.
Yeah, but he was Mr. M. That's why he was known. Evidently, it was one of those.
He was a big man, too.
Yeah. But then Vern, Crusher, and then Vern, Fritz Von Erich, and then Vern. And then he had Mad Dog Vachon.
Yep.
And then he had Vern. And then he had Dr. X, and Dr. X was the Destroyer.
Okay.
You remember him?
Yep.
And then he had Vern, and that covered from 1960 to 1975. And Vern held the title from 68 to 75. But between 1960 and 1968, Vern held the title 9 times. And then he held on to it for a long time. And then he started, let's see where I'm going with this. Oh, I see. Then he lost it in 1975 to Nick Bockwinkel. And then Vern and Bockwinkel. Now here we go. Now we got to start this stuff. Hogan beat Bockwinkel for the title. And then they ended up giving it back to
I remember that.
Bockwinkel. So then Bockwinkel's the champ again. Hogan had it, and they said they did it just to get the crowd, and then they give it back. It was to make the crowd happy, but then they give it back. Otto Wands took it off Bockwinkel, but then Nick got it back. Jumbo Tsuda, that's another big man.
Yep.
Then Jumbo lost it to Martel, Rick Martel. And I like the Rick Martel AWA champion.
I did too.
I enjoyed when Martel was the AWA champ. Then Stan Hansen won it off Martel. And then Hansen basically relinquished it because they wouldn't give him they wouldn't do a storyline with him. He said it didn't make sense.
Yeah, he's basically holding.
Doesn't make sense. So
yeah, he was holding hostage for one point.
And then they just give it to Nick Bockwinkel. He was the number one contender. Say, here's your belt. He didn't win it or nothing. They just gave it to him. Yep. Then Kurt Hennig, the roll of dimes, quarters, whatever it was.
Yep.
Then Jerry Lawler had it for a while. And then Zbyszko. And then Mr. Saito. Remember Mr. Saito?
Yep. I remember Mr. Saito.
And then Zbyszko. And then Zbyszko vacated the title, and then the company went bankrupt or went out of business. So they had a lot of champions. Vern had a lot. It backed and forth between Vern and
when we
Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
When we saw Zbyszko and them in Anderson at the racetrack, was that AWA?
I think it still was AWA.
Yeah,
I think
I was thinking it was, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Hall, Zbyszko. Yep, I believe so.
It was like right after the races, right?
Yep. Right.
It had the races, and it was out there in the midfield.
Yep.
Like I remember going to it, and I thought it was AWA because I remember seeing Zbyszko and all, but I couldn't remember what the organization was.
Mr. Perfect, well, it wasn't perfect, but Kurt Hennig. Yep.
Yeah, they came to Indy. I've seen Zbyszko and Halls in the main event, or not the main event, the opener. The main event was Sergeant Slaughter and one of that Russian, Boris Zukov.
Boris Zukov. Yep.
I
And if you
remember
go
I had a steel cage match.
They did. I don't remember who was in it, but they did have a steel cage.
And Boris Zukov actually was one of Sergeant Slaughter's recruits. If you go to Mid-South, I think it was Mid-South. And then he took on the Russian gimmick. But, yeah, Sergeant Slaughter had that when he was a heel in the Mid-South, and he had a bunch of rookie recruits
Yep.
in Army gear and stuff.
Had one in WWE, if I remember right. His name was Terry Daniels. Never went anywhere. He had one in WWE.
And remember in AWA, then later on he had Greg Gagne.
Yeah.
I still laugh because the only reason Greg Gagne ever made it anywhere was because of his dad.
Oh, yeah.
And the only thing Greg Gagne, I mean, it's a good thing because he's the historian for the AWA. So, but he wasn't a wrestler, not that well of a wrestler.
No.
So that's my AWA.
He had some success tag teams, a lot to do with his dad, but I think it was Gonzo.
Gonzo, yeah. They were a hardcore tag team. They held the tag belt several times.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
you want to go on to NWA or?
Well, let's do the WWF. It's shorter, much shorter. And this will tie in here in a little bit, and you'll see why. Buddy Rogers, and he actually was the NWA title holder, and the Northeast didn't want to recognize him anymore as the NWA title holder, so they made him the WWF champion, and he pulled from the NWA. So, and then Bruno held it for like ever. And then Ivan Koloff beat him in like, 30, 40 seconds. It was very quick.
Bruno held it for 2,803 days, I believe.
And then lost it in basically a squash match, kind of.
Yeah, Ivan Koloff got him in the corner, jumped off the second rope, and pinned him in like 30 seconds, and that was a riot. You can imagine.
That's crazy to be chipping. Yeah.
See, that's what they're doing with Roman. The next one on the list for Roman is Pedro Morales, who held it for 1,027 days, I believe it was. And that's the next goal is definitely for Roman to pass him up.
Well, if they're going to do Cody and Roman at WrestleMania next year, he's definitely going to pass that up.
Yeah, because he's almost
300 days on it. But Ivan Koloff was a transitional champ. They took it off Bruno to put it on Pedro, but you didn't have good versus good. So Pedro took it off Ivan like a week later.
Yep.
And then Pedro held it, what you said, 1,000 days?
1,027, yep.
And then Stan Stasiak, which is another transitional champion, took it off Pedro long enough then to put it back on Bruno, who then held it again for a long time.
Yep.
And from what I heard, Bruno begged Vince, and I'm guessing it'd be Vince Sr., I'm getting tired. I'm done. I've done this forever. Please take this belt off me. I've heard that somewhere. And Bruno may have been the one that said it.
I think we were watching something now. I heard Bruno say something about that.
So then Billy Graham got it. I hear that was another riot when Billy Graham took the belt off Bruno. And then Bob Backlund took it off Billy Graham. And then you know what happened.
Yeah, Backlund had it for 2,083 days.
Yeah, I knew he had it a while. And see, then he lost it in controversy because then he had the Iron Sheik to be the transitional to Hogan. And that's when Arnold Skolin threw the towel in.
He was Italian, yeah. He never submitted, but he threw in the towel, and that's how they got it to Sheik, so Sheik could get it to
Hogan a month later.
And then the story is that Gagne offered Sheik money to break Hogan's leg because he was mad because Hogan left.
And Sheik wouldn't do it.
You think anybody will ever beat San Martino's record of?
No, I don't think that ever happened. The
No.
best chance would be Roman, and I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah, but you're thinking you got another decade before that even comes about.
Well, he's at 1,000, so you got another 4 years.
Well, how long did Bruno have it?
I don't know about total days, but I know at one point I think he had a 2,800. So you're talking about almost 3,000 days.
His longest streak was the 2,800, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I don't think anybody beats
years.
that.
That's 7.5 years right there.
Yeah, and so he'd have to go another. Roman's had it almost 3. He's got 3. He'd have to have another
4 years.
4
I can't
years.
see that.
I don't
Not
either.
in today's world.
No, I don't either. I think he'll have it probably to WrestleMania.
I think it'd be
at
pushing
at the longest. At the longest.
And see, the thing's different. Back then, wrestling was more holds and there wasn't this jumping off and going through tables and slamming through the Spanish announce table every week, and the bodies held up longer. The way they do it now, the bodies don't hold up to hold on an 8-year reign like Bruno had it.
And they did have that big showdown in 1972 between Pedro and Bruno at Shea Stadium, and that was in 72.
Is that out there anywhere?
I would say so. I don't know if it's on the network or not.
And that's another thing that's big difference now is it's the storylines are a little more rushed. We're back then the storylines lasted forever.
Yeah.
Now a storyline goes longer in a few months. People want to start. Oh, it's getting stale. Start complaining. Everybody's wanting to know what's next instead of just letting what's going on kind of breathe.
That's something that Dusty was real good at. He'd get in that storyline with the Horseman, and he'd go with Flair, and then he might go with Blanchard, and then he might go with Arn, and then next thing you know, he's back with Flair. He could, he might wrestle Flair for a couple months, and then he might not wrestle him again for 8 months.
Yeah.
And that feud, their feud really never ended. I bet it was always.
Yeah, and you're starting to see a little more of that with Triple H in charge of storylines continuing because his favorite time was NWA, and so he's trying to do that. I think that the Bloodline, in a way, could you kind of compare it to the Horsemen in a way?
And the problem with today is you got to pay per view every month
because the Horsemen were put together to kind of protect Flair, the Usos, and Solo, who's their enforcer, Arn Anderson enforcer, were there to protect Flair and help him keep his belt. And that's the thing that gets me when people say, "Well, that's all he does is cheat." Well,
he's a heel.
He's a heel, and that's what I mean. He does do a lot of cheating. There's no doubt about it. And Flair did do a little bit more winning on his own, but not a lot more.
Flair liked to get DQ'd a lot.
Yeah, that was their big title. Yeah, that was their big thing. Yeah. DQ, which I don't think would fly nowadays.
No, because you can throw people over the top rope now. Back then, you just throw somebody over the top rope, jump off the top rope, you're DQ'd, and it's like you pile drive somebody. Well, shit, a pile driver's nothing now.
Yeah, you DQ a guy now, the fans boo, so they hate DQ.
You pile drive somebody now, they get right back up.
A Canadian
pile driver this
to a table, the guy gets right back up. Yeah.
But,
one might be a one count.
They don't want to keep running the same main event at every pay-per-view over and over and over and over again. Since they run it every month, they kind of have to change things up. Well, then after Hogan, Andre wanted an Indy, a way to turn it around and give it to Ted.
Yep.
And then they took it off Ted because Ted didn't win it. So Macho won it at WrestleMania 4, and Hogan took it back at 5, and Warrior took it at 6. So, and that's 1990, April 1st. And that's all there was. There's
a lot of people crap on the Hogan and Warrior match. I didn't think it was that bad.
14 title changes with one guy holding it twice. So
I mean, it wasn't a great. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a great wrestling match, but I still enjoyed it. I
remember the hype at the time. The hype was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And now they badmouth it. But hey, I got Warrior merchandise in my collection somewhere. So
that was one of my wife's favorites.
We were Warrior fans.
Yeah, that was one of my wife's favorites. Was Ultimate Warrior. You know, I mean, she loved going to see him. We seen him. They had a cage, and they actually had a roof on the cage, which shocked me.
You know, that surprised me when you told me that, because I was like,
yeah, because he took him and he was hitting. He
Yeah,
had
hitting
the earthquake,
hitting the top of the cage.
Hitting the top of the cage, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it because
That's
earthquake
fantastic.
was.
I think that was the same show where was that the same show we were sitting on the aisle and Jake put his snake up. We got the kind of hold Damien.
Yep.
Well, that's cool too.
Yeah, he held Damien up like this and let everybody in the sand. We all had our hands up. It was pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Ooh, Billy has a question here, and it's going to be for you and Marcus because it's back in the 70s. And I don't know. You guys remember Eric the Red back in the mid to late 70s, dressed up like
vaguely? I do, yes.
I vaguely do too.
He would hit his opponents with a huge bone.
Well, and I tell you, the other people that hit people with a bone was the Moondogs.
Moondogs.
They would hit people.
I went out to the cemetery when I was down at Kelly's cousin and uncle's. The Moondog. Oh, I don't remember what Moondog. I know he wrestled as King Harley Hog, and cousin Junior was always buried like 20 minutes from where Kelly's family lived. So we ran over there one morning.
And he mentions Eric the Red. They kind of did a take off that in I think it was the 80s, could have been the 90s. Nord the Barbarian, for a little while, was called the Viking.
Yeah,
it didn't last very long. Didn't last very long, the Viking, but they kind of. That was kind of, I think, a tribute to Eric.
Well, was that the Berserker then? Did he come in as the Berserker then? Yeah.
Yep. I think he might have been the Viking first, and they switched it over to the Berserker.
Yeah, Eric the Red. I couldn't place him. I remember the name, reading about him.
Moondogs. And I think there was another Moondog Maine.
Maine, and I don't think that's who I seen though. I thought I had another one.
It was Rex, Spot, and Maine.
I think there's a fourth one.
Maybe.
But that was the two big ones right there that he just.
Because the Wild Samoans, there was more than two because they ended up adding more. Samu was one of them that got added towards the end.
Yeah, but Offensica
was too.
The Offensica.
But they added Samu, maybe another one too.
But yeah,
towards the end.
Got Samu right over your shoulder.
Yep, Samu right over the shoulder.
Yep, Moondog Rex, Moondog Spot, Maine, and I'm thinking there was another one, but
I think you're right.
I was big. I like the head shrinkers.
Yeah, the Moondogs. Yep.
Yeah.
They brought the Moondogs back in there to be jobbers, but at one time they was not jobbers when they.
No, they were big. Probably more the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Did Rikishi do anything with the Wild Samoans when he was Fatu?
He could have. He could have been towards that end of the.
It'd have to be the end of the. It'd have to be his beginning and their end because.
Yeah, because I know Samu did.
Oh, he has another son coming up. He's going to be torn with. He's going to be managing.
Yes,
this year.
Yeah, he's just starting. He's 34 or 36 years old, and he's just now going to start. They just announced it.
Wow.
Tamiko
he's doing Diamond Dallas Page in it. A late start. Wow.
And I think if I remember right, I think he has another son as well.
It may be.
I think I asked Jared the other day. It's like, how many boys does he have?
Samoans are like cats and rabbits. And please, if you see this, that meant no harm. I don't want to be getting hate mail or nasty, but yeah, they could produce.
I couldn't imagine like right now that he has three boys that are at the top of the industry. I mean, it's
also.
And did people realize while they were sitting there Saturday that hey, you got one of the bloodlines sitting in the audience here?
Yeah.
That the Usos is his dad, or they're his sons, and.
Well, the shirts he was selling was awesome. It said Fatu Legacy, and it had him and his boys on there.
Yep.
Is that the one that Jared was wrapping up the day we interviewed him? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they're cool shirts.
Couple things with the WWE or WWF. The Fabulous Moolah held the championship from 1956 to 1984.
Yeah. That's because she owned.
Yeah.
If you ever watch Moolah stuff, she basically called the shots when it came to the women.
Yeah, she did. Mr. Fuji, and this wasn't all one time. I think this is total times, days. Held the tag team championships for 932 days.
Same partner?
No, I think it was different partners, different things. Let me see. Anything else here? Superstar held it for 296 days.
Yeah, I knew it was a while.
Of course, how much Backlund had it was 2,083, 2,803 for San Martino.
Hogan had it from 84 to 88 for almost 5 that first round.
Yeah, a lot of days there too. Yeah, I don't remember how many days Harley Race held it in NWA, but he had it for a long time.
Yeah, we'll hit that here in a minute too.
And then just not that they held them in big places, like you said. Crusher had it in AWA for a little bit, but Dick the Bruiser and Crusher held belts
everywhere.
Just like Bobo Brazil held belts all over the place, all over the world. I mean, we're great champions all over the place. Of course, Balkwinkle and AWA held. Blackjacks had a lot of championships all over the place too.
See, I don't remember Mae Young of anything before she came to WWE.
I don't either.
So, I mean, evidently she was very good at what she did because the bumps she could take. But anytime you think
she could take
Moolah.
Yeah,
the bump she could take when she was like 70 or 80.
Old.
That was crazy. Some of the stuff they done with her. I can't. Well, they couldn't do it now.
No.
The hand.
Oh, see, that's what I was laughing about. I was just now thinking of the hand when you said it.
I watched a promo came up on my thing.
There's no, yeah, you couldn't do that.
A promo came up on my thing last night, and I showed Chris this. I won't go completely into it because I don't want to. I might get canceled.
Might be
I can give you the.
Might be the end of Gonzo's wrestling room.
I can give you the gist of it, I think. But that's when he was challenging Hogan. Probably.
Who are we talking?
Schultz, Dr. D.
Okay.
And he's talking about Hogan basically belonged in San Francisco for some reasons. And he said he tried to pick up a woman in San Francisco and found out it wasn't a woman. That's what he said. And along those lines. Oh, man. It was along those lines.
There's no way. No way you could do a promo like that now.
Well, you could, but you could be like Dr. D again and cancel you across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, you would be gone.
See, that's a guy that I remember from the magazines, but I never really seen. Bulldog Brower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember seeing him a lot in the magazines, but this guy I never really seen on TV.
Yeah, that's the way I am too.
I never got the opportunity.
How do you think wrestling would be now if Vince wouldn't have done why he done it and it's global? Do you think it would still be territories like it was?
No, the territories would have died. I still think would have died. Somebody would have done what Vince. I mean, not exactly what Vince done, but would have did something along those lines. I think.
Well, I have a buddy. Well, I'm not saying a buddy. I have a Facebook friend that wrestled for Bruiser. I'm not going to mention his name. And anytime I post anything about like the night Christian Cash went through the table with the flyer, and I was in Kentucky, but he thought I was in Indiana, and he's like, well, how many organizations does Indiana have to have? And boy, we never would have done that. Well, he's still living in the past.
Yeah.
Bruiser was the only thing. This was Bruiser's territory. We're not doing that anymore, but he's still in that. Well, there's 3,000 promotions and all this crazy throwing them through tables, and well, that's the way it is today.
Well, if somebody had the money and had a way to get on TV like Bruiser did and stuff like that, maybe some of these local things wouldn't stay alive. I mean, I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying right. Bruiser had those connections and got on TV and even, I mean, I know Channel 6 and Channel 4 both did good ratings with Bruiser, whether it was 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. A lot of people watch those wrestling shows.
Marcus, you probably know what channel was Basher on for WCWO, because they on TV for a while.
No, he's on Channel 4 when he actually made it on the actual mainstream. I mean, he had cable channels.
Had a cable
But
channel.
he did hit Channel 4 for maybe 6 months.
Remember, had the cable channels like here would show high school stuff and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of, I'm not saying it's high school stuff, but that's, I think
Yeah.
he got on that later on. He got on that cable.
But yeah,
But-
he
but
was
he
on
was-
Channel 4 for a while.
Okay.
It was like early in the morning. I think it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was early in the morning, but
I thought he was on one of the channels for a little bit, but I didn't know.
See, that was the thing with Ring of Honor. I probably would have gotten to Ring of Honor a lot more, but you never could find it. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, one night I'd be up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I thought, oh man, it's on this channel. So I stay up the next week to 2 o'clock in the morning. Wouldn't be on there.
Well, just like ECW.
It was very
I
difficult.
mean, once
Till we got once I got a satellite dish, and then once it got on
TNN.
10N, but it was hard to find even on the satellite dish because it wasn't consistent. The channel would be out of Philadelphia, and they may have had a sports game run late, so everything got moved back, so it wouldn't be on at 1 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, or then they'd show the last 5 minutes because that's how much time was left in that slot. And
Because we used to try to watch Hometown Sports News Network.
I
I'm
don't know.
I'm going to say that was probably what that station was called.
It was Hometown. It was. I
yeah,
remember
that was his cable, but he was on Channel 4 for
Now I do.
before that, but it wasn't very long.
Do you think Vern was too out of touch? If let's say Vince don't come around, he was ready to push Hogan. Vern was. Do you think he could have done something similar, or do you think he was too out of touch?
No, I don't think he would have done what Vern did or Vince did.
But do you think he could have got big?
Well, he was already kind of big. Do you think he could have got bigger? No. I think the NWA would have swallowed him.
Well, the NWA could have did well, but their problem was they didn't have a business manager. They was kind of like almost like Dusty. They was getting money in, and they was trying to live like rock stars and flying everywhere. They didn't manage the money. That's why they went broke.
What do you say? Pass by in a Cadillac.
What's going on, Bruce? We'll say hi to you now that we know you're on here.
That's exactly what. One of the Crockett brothers is still alive. I think it's Dave. I can't remember which one, but whatever one's still alive said, yeah, if they would have had a manager, a business manager that knew what they were doing with money, said they would have never folded. Because it wasn't a lack of money coming in. It was
How they used to spend it.
Yes. So they were living like rock stars.
It's still crazy to me that Vince paid $1 million for WWF and then
From his dad.
just sold half of it for $9 billion. That's just
It is amazing.
it's crazy.
It's amazing.
Well, he got the family and friends discount too, I'm sure. And he said if his dad ever knew what he was going to do, his dad never would have done that.
No. And then also
WCW basically paid for the first WrestleMania.
They paid him a little bit over $1 million to get those rights to TBS back so they could get back on TV, because TBS hated what he was doing because Vince lied to him. He said, well, I'm going to put a live show on. No, he put a tape show on of matches, which what he was doing on his other stations that he had. And he did the same thing, and they hated it. And so they wanted it back. And so he sold it back to them, and they financed WrestleMania. Vince was smart. And not only that, the other big thing really is the dude had big balls. He was willing to take a chance and fail.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily,
You know that
he didn't fail.
back then was, you'd almost compare it to the Mafia, and I wouldn't say they weren't part of it, but yeah, Vince is lucky to be alive at times that you didn't have drive-bys and.
Well, they had meetings about. I heard they had meetings about
Jim Ross.
them.
Jim Ross was in the restroom and said the guys came in and he put his feet up and them dudes were saying, "Let's just kill him. Let's kill Vince." and Jim Ross was like, "What the hell?"
Hey, Vince, you better watch your back, bud.
That was back before we ever worked for Vince and stuff, So he thought they was going to have him killed.
And Vince knew, he was smart about knowing that to doing something big like that, you also had to add more of the entertainment value to it. He'd bring in stars that had nothing to do with wrestling and stuff for like WrestleMania. He knew how to get the mainstream audience eyeballs on it.
Yep. Yeah, he did. I mean, he had.
Well, when he partnered with MTV, That was the first number one.
Yep.
Because that hit a whole different audience.
Yeah, but who would ever thought to bring in Liberace and these different people? But I mean, whether you like Liberace or not, he did bring some eyes, different eyes. You know, whether those eyes stayed or not, maybe not. But and he also, when he needed to listen, I wish he would do that now. But when he needed to listen, he listened to Triple H and
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels and them in '97 when they told him, or late '96. He said, "We have to change, and the cartoon stuff's got to stop, or we're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get edgy, and this is what we got to do." And he actually listened. And they also, let's be honest, they stole some stuff from ECW. I'm not saying they, exact 100%, but they took a little bit of it and did it their way. Same thing with WCW. They took the luchadors and things and used it. I mean, if ECW is not around, who knows what direction them companies go?
Yeah, true.
I mean, honestly, because Heyman is a genius.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Heyman's a genius.
And if Heyman would have had a business manager, ECW might have.
Yeah, another one didn't know how to spend money.
No.
Wisely.
No.
Dustin said Dusty's motto was if he had $2 or $1 in his pocket, he was spending two. He goes, don't do that.
He said, don't do that.
Yeah. It was...
And I guess there's a ranch. They put his ashes out on a ranch somewhere by a big tree. It was a place that he loved to go. Said it was nothing but just land. All it's out there, just land. But he loved that place, and that's where he would go and spend time and collect his thoughts. And that's where they put his ashes at, underneath this great big old tree. They actually showed the tree and showed a cross that they put up in the tree. They had it down on thing, but they said they didn't say why. But the older sister said we had to move it up by people messing with it or whatever.
Or maybe animals.
It could have been.
Yeah, that's probably what I think.
But Dustin's wrestling school looked very nice.
Oh yeah,
we'll find out from Brody here in 6 months.
They showed that. They actually showed him he was doing like a promo class, and he had Dusty video promo playing for the students.
See, now if Brody had been able to do it, he could have been in that.
Yeah.
They could have showed him in that class.
That's true.
Well, it looked like there was a couple rings.
At least two.
At least two on the part they showed, but it looked pretty nice. Dustin seemed, and he seemed like he was enjoying it.
And which I told Marcus earlier today, I want to mention real quick about Billy Starks wrestling on TV last Friday night.
If you missed it, go check it out. She looked
really good. But then I got to see an interview, probably something that she done on her own, telling people that, she's not done yet and everything. And man, her personality, so I've never really heard her talk very much. Her personality just come off the screen. Way she talked, her eyes sparkling. I mean, she's going to be a huge.
Yeah, that's why I got to get there May 6th or whatever day. No,
I'm telling you, watching her in the ring, I see a lot of IK3. You can see that influence.
I don't disagree with
their
that.
Striking and stuff. It just, man, it's.
Well, Joey had some part in her training.
Well,
so.
and let's be honest. They're champion. She's better in the ring than that champion.
Oh yeah,
that champion's got the look and don't give me Goldberg style, which we talked earlier, and they're building her. And I'm not saying I'm not putting them down. That's the direction they want to go. But as far as in the ring, this 18-year-old girl who's been wrestling for 4 or 5 years is outstanding. And if she could be the key to me, if they want to go at least on the women's side, she could be the key.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the men's side, I don't know, but I think the key could be Adam Cole. But we'll see.
I was impressed with that with her match Friday night.
Oh yeah, and she took her the longest that anybody has. So they had to have a lot of faith in her to have her do that.
Well, that's what That's what I was glad about because I was afraid it was. I was afraid it was
Well,
just going to be.
where it started out, it looked like it was going to be a squash.
I was afraid it was just going to be like a squash match, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
she got several near falls, got a lot of offense in. Actually hit that big woman a couple times pretty hard because she's stiff. And that she came back and took some stiff stuff.
Yeah.
So it was very good. I was
and the crowd was behind her. The
definitely.
crowd got behind her. That was,
she's got that. She's comfortable speaking. She's also got that natural charisma that I think Rachel has. I think Rachel's got that natural charisma. She doesn't have the speaking yet, but hopefully she can get it.
So it takes some people a little long. Takes some people longer to get comfortable with the speaking.
Yeah, but she said she said I haven't showed even close to what I can do. What she said in that interview, and she said, "You guys just wait."
Oh
And
yeah,
I believe her.
Too.
I believe her.
And she wrestled at the Dub, probably a dozen times, and yeah, I knew then that she was going to be somebody.
Well, we got still the NWA.
Yeah.
Let's look at.
You ready?
Yep.
This is a long one.
Yeah.
I started with June 30th, 1961. That's where it's broke into the 60s. The NWA's got probably at least 3, maybe 4 decades longer than that. They've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Buddy Rogers was the champion on June 30th, 1961. Then you had Killer Kowalski beat him. And then it said that Bruno Sammartino actually defeated Buddy Rogers for the NWA title. See, this is where it's going to get interesting. But Buddy claimed he was injured, so Bruno refused the title. So Buddy kept it. Then Bobo Brazil beat Buddy Rogers, but Buddy Rogers claimed he was injured. I see a theme here.
Yeah.
But then they did a storyline where the doctors examined Buddy Rogers, said there ain't nothing wrong with him. So they give the belt back to Bobo. Then Buddy Rogers supposedly lost it again, but this time he went with it was a non-title match, and they believed him, so they give the belt back to him.
Okay, let me ask something real quick. They claim Ron Simmons is the first Black World Heavyweight Champion. He's not.
No, he's not.
Bobo is.
Yeah. But they never, if I remember what I read, they did not actually acknowledge the fact that Brazil was the champion.
Okay.
It's one of those.
That's interesting.
Not later, yeah.
Well, back in that time, maybe they couldn't acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we touched on him a little bit there, Bruce. As Mabel.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Luthez, which was, have you ever seen his stuff? You talk about the most scientific wrestler I think I've ever seen was Luthez.
Luthez was really, I'll tell you another guy I got to see later in his career. See if you remember him. A couple of names. Les Thatcher.
Yes.
And then of course, Billy Robinson.
Mm-hmm. Billy Robinson and Vern Gagne wrestled a lot.
Well, yeah.
Then it says here, and here we go with Buddy Rogers again. And he won it from Luthez, but then anyway, I don't know what happened. That's when Buddy Rogers then ended up going to the WWE, WWF. Okay. That was the time frame in there where they didn't want to acknowledge Buddy Rogers. I guess he was getting tired of his crap. I don't know. Sounded like he always had some reason why he couldn't lose his title. Then Gene Kiniski, Dory Funk Jr. Then here we go. Harley Race, Jack Briscoe, Giant Baba, Jack Briscoe, Terry Funk, Harley, Dusty, Harley, Baba, Harley, Tommy Rich, and that last 3 weeks? Was it 3 weeks? It wasn't very long.
I think it might have been 3 days. It was very long.
It was very short.
Yeah, it was real short.
Then Harley. Yeah. And then Dusty Rhodes. And then here we go with Flair. But Flair lost it to the Midnight Rider. See, I finally got a Dusty one in there. The Midnight Rider. But they wouldn't let Midnight Rider keep it because Dusty was suspended, so he wore that hood. And they said, you want to keep that title, you got to remove that hood. And he didn't do it, so they took it back off of him and gave it back to Ric Flair.
I don't, Billy Buzz, I don't
Oklahoma,
remember.
Seminoles, Florida.
He played for Florida State
Played
in college.
played Florida State College, but and then I thought he played in the USFL, but he says he might have played in the NFL.
I have to look that up.
Yep.
I know he played for Florida State, but I'm not sure. All I can see if I can
see what his pro career was.
Damn. that's what he always says. I love it. Especially with everybody's just waiting for it.
Just waiting for it, yeah.
And he sold a ton of shirts with that name, just the word damn on it.
Yep.
Okay, so after they give the belt back to Flair because the Midnight Rider wouldn't take his mask off, a guy named Jack Verino won it in the Dominican Republic. But they stripped it off of him because Jack Verino said he wasn't going to defend that title anywhere but in the Dominican Republic.
Well, I don't remember him at all.
No, well, I think that's one of those, it just came to light.
Yeah.
So we went back to Flair. Carlos Colon won it from Flair, but he did it in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And that was another non-recognized title change. So we went back to Flair. And then Harley Race had it. Flair, Race, Flair. Kerry Von Erich for maybe that was the 3 weeks.
Yeah, that was because he won it because David had just passed away.
Yeah.
And they put it on because I think David was going to win it.
He played for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think David was going to win it, and David passed away in Japan.
Billy looked it up too. Yeah, he was drafted sixth round pick 160 in 1981.
Did he go to the USFL or something after that?
Yeah, he played for the Browns, and he went and played for the Ottawa Roughnecks, and then the Tampa Bay Bandits.
Canadian, and then USFL.
Before he started wrestling after that.
Okay, so Von Erich lost it to Flair in Japan. Then Dusty had it, then Flair, then Ronnie Garvin.
I remember that. That was a good storyline.
And then Flair, Steamboat, and then Flair, and then Sting won it from Flair on July 7th of 1990. So that covers the 3 decades of the NWA and their little weird twists and plots and.
You see that, what Daniel Fuel said?
No, you'll have to put it up.
I believe that.
Yeah, that makes sense after I read what I read.
Well, I know one time. That was good.
That's Jay McLovin.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
He's having a good time. I remember Flair said, I think it was part of his, might have been part of his documentary, but where he talked about Japan. No, I think it was during the Hall of Fame. He was talking about Japan and going over there. So one time, hey, you're going over to Japan and you're going to get the belt back, or we're going to make sure you don't lose the belt. Harley's going with you. And because they knew how things were over there, but they said there wasn't a problem Harley couldn't handle. So, because I know they said Harley was one tough man.
Yeah.
If there was an issue, they sent Harley to take care of it.
Flair said Muta, the best Japanese wrestler he's ever been in the ring with.
So yeah, that's what he said. And then I mentioned a couple other ones about being really tough. I think Jumbo Tsuruta, he said just beat the crap out of him. He said them dudes were shooters. He said I wasn't a shooter. He said I was an entertainer.
Yeah.
These dudes beat the crap out of me.
If you look online, you can see Jumbo Tsuruta and Terry Gordy, and you're right. It's nothing but a stiff punch, mean.
He said Tsuruta. He said people talk about what Lesnar did to John Cena a few years ago, give him like 20 suplexes or whatever. He said he took 46 one night from Jumbo Tsuruta. Flair did. He said he beat me to death.
Yeah, Tsuruta was stiff. And that match between that Rick Martel took the belt off Tsuruta was very good.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Rick Martel deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was really good. He was good in AWA. He was good. He was even a good heel in WWF.
I didn't care for the model crap.
I mean, I thought he was. I mean, was it used the best? But he was a pretty good heel.
And he was a tag team champion with more than just Tito. He was with Tony Gurria and I think Larry Zbyszko and maybe not. I know
he had a tag team with Tom Zink.
Yeah, and
too.
Tom flaked on him.
Yeah,
yeah, the Can-Am connection.
Yeah, yep. And then what was the team Tito had?
Strike Force.
Strike Force.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that because they held belts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't remember who they took on. We seen them in Indianapolis one night. Tito and Martel, and I don't know who they took on, but it was another one of those, a lot of really close 3 counts.
Yeah.
You know,
Tito's
bang,
Tito's in the Hall of Fame, but Tito was very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Strike Force, and then they got the Girls with Cars.
I know Ray gets a lot of a lot of the limelight and everything, but some people might get pissed off. But I say this: Tito's probably a better wrestler than Ray.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as wrestling,
interesting to see the two in their prime. That I would. When they give Tito the El Matador, then they kind of cheapened him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
But he held the Intercontinental title twice. He took it off of
Well, see, I seen Tito
Don Morocco
in NWA. I actually got to see him when Georgia Championship Wrestling first started. Tito was on there, so I got to see him on there, and I may even seen him in AWA, but I know I seen him in NWA.
I think you're right, but I think also their styles was
it was
their
different.
Styles are so different,
and size difference too.
Ray's more of the luchador flying around.
Yeah.
You know, Tito wasn't really a big man, really.
Yeah, he wasn't a big man. But I don't think he really.
He was probably 240.
He didn't like fly around like as much as Ray.
I don't know how tall he was, but I'm gonna say
Tito.
What, 6'2" maybe?
I'm a big Tito fan.
Arriba. Yeah. Yeah, when they put him as the El Matador, it's like, okay, well, you just cheapened him. It's just like Tony Atlas went to Samba Simba.
Yeah.
Well, why would you do that?
That was Vince. I mean, Vince had a lot of great ideas, and he had a lot of.
I mean, again, we'll go with Skinner.
Come on,
man. That guy was. How do you go for being? See, I can't think.
Oh, Kern was part of the Fantastics, wasn't he?
Yes. No. Not the Fantastics.
Not the Fantastics, but what was that team?
God, now I can't think of it now. You said it was with Stan Lane, Steve Kern, the Fabulous Ones. Maybe that's
Fabulous
what it was.
Ones. I think it's Fabulous Ones. Yep.
And how do you go from being in a tux to being in a swamp?
Matter of fact, you said that not Kern, but the other guy. Maybe it is Kern. One of these guys that wore the tuxedos. He had a original tuxedo, and somebody stole it. It was at a Comic-Con or somebody stole his tuxedo, and he's trying to get it back. It's from 1984, and somebody got it.
So if I had something like that, I wouldn't take it to a Comic-Con, just because of.
You think they'd have more people?
Yeah.
That shit. Yeah. But what do you do with it? You can't say, well, this is Steve Kern's tuxedo, because then it gets out that you have it. So is it really worth anything? Because
it's like the guy that stole. Like the guy stole Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey.
Yeah.
He
finally told somebody that about it, and then he got caught.
Well, and we'll go another sport. Well, not a sport, acting. James Dean, somebody stole his tombstone years ago. And what do you do with that? So the guy, whoever took it, ended up abandoning it in an alley like a year later, because what do you do with that?
What are you gonna do? Put it in your yard? I mean,
hey, look what I have. Well, okay, so now you go to jail. So he went and dumped it in an alley, and they found it in an alley somewhere. So,
yeah, Santana was 6'2", 244,
and he could do some flying because his finishing maneuver was like a flying punch. flying crossbody or something like that.
I was gonna say, I think he done flying crossbody.
He stayed babyface his entire career.
Him and
Started in 77. Started in 77. He was trained by Bob Orton and Hiro Masuda.
Bob Orton Sr.?
It just says Bob Orton.
I'm guessing it'll be Senior because him and Junior had a lot of matches together. So they may have trained together for all. Yeah, Tito was very scientific.
And I didn't realize that he played pro football too.
Canadian? Mexican?
Let's see here.
Yes, he was more Mexican, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had a collegiate career at West Texas State.
He's a school teacher now, I think.
He was signed by the Kansas City Chiefs, but cut during training camp due to poor performance in the 40-yard dash. And then
you see quite a few guys that were drafted in the NFL and didn't quite make it that became big wrestling stars.
And then twisted his Achilles tendon 2 weeks before camp, and then played a single season for BC Lions in the Canadian Football League. Appearing in 13.
Canadian football. I thought I heard that somewhere.
Because if the Rock wouldn't have got hurt, we might not have seen the Rock in WWE. Because
what about Baron Corbin? He was a Colts for something. I'm not sure what he did for the Colts, but
offensive lineman, wasn't he?
Yeah. He didn't play. I don't think he ever played a lot for the Colts. He was on the practice squad and stuff. But because he was on the team same time as Pat McAfee.
Well, Bruiser played football.
Ernie Ladd.
I think Blackjack Mulligan, if I remember right, played football also. A lot of those guys.
Flying Brian.
Yeah, Flying Brian played Cincinnati Bengals.
What about McMichael? The Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah.
Mongo.
Mongo.
I think you show his videos to show people what not to do when you get in the ring.
Let me ask you this, and I know he just passed. I think he just passed, or if he hasn't, he's in a bad way. So I'm not making fun of him. I don't want people to think that. But which was he worst at, commentating or wrestling?
Oh, wrestling. And commentating was stupid because he had that little dog with him all the time.
Yeah, had that little chihuahua. That little chihuahua.
Yeah, if he hasn't passed, he's close to it. I heard he was really sick.
He's really, really bad, yeah.
Billy said Cowboy Bob Orton was his favorite wrestler growing up. One of his favorite wrestlers growing up.
Bob Orton wrestled for Bruiser there for a while. Had a feud with Bruiser. Ended up being one of those Bob Orton pile drove Bruiser, so he got DQ'd. So then they did a no DQ, and then Bruiser pile drived him in the next month.
See, a lot of the Orton Jr., the one I remember, was a lot with Piper, and he didn't wrestle that much.
No,
he always had to cast on. He was towards more the end of his.
And then if you get on Chris Tuesday Night Titans, you could see where they're go to the doctor to check on that cast and did a whole skit. Well, it takes 6 weeks. Well, though this guy's really got a bad arm here, it needs to be on like several months. You need to watch those Tuesday Night Titans. I'm
gonna turn it on tonight because I got a lot of wrestling matches to upload.
While he's asleep, he's gonna turn it on.
Yeah.
I gotta get all these wrestling matches.
Remember, season 1, episode 1's where they called the police on Dr. D because he's being mean to his kids.
I'll turn it on the TV while I'm uploading these matches.
Have you ever seen the video with Schultz slapped over that reporter?
John Stossel?
He slapped the crap out of him twice.
Oh, no.
Busted his eardrum.
2020, and I have it on VHS tape. There you go, VHS tape. Can't do a damn thing with it now, but yeah. 2020 is doing an expose about wrestling being fake, and Stossel walked up. He says, "I think it's fake." You think it's fake?
But the bad thing about that, it wasn't fair, is it ruined his career. But Hogan did it to the comedian
Belzer, who just passed away.
Just passed away. Was on. He did. I mean, he did it on purpose. He can say what he wants. He got that front headlock, and you just seen his body go limp, and then he just let go of him, boom, and busted his head open. And Hogan did it on purpose. And don't get me wrong, but Belzer was being kind of a jerk. But
and then Belzer sued him, won enough money, and named his mansion Shea Hogan. The money he got off of Hogan when he did that, he bought a big house and called it Shea Hogan.
But it didn't affect his career at all. And Schultz went. That was the end of his career.
Oh, that's one thing you don't do. You don't go up to a pro wrestler and say wrestling's fake. I think Michael Cole's great.
I think Michael Cole,
especially he's even gotten better now.
Especially right now, I think Michael Cole is the best commentator out there right now because he can be himself.
I think he's better as a commentator than an announcer.
And of course, Michael Cole came from a serious reporter for CBS. I think he even did some war stuff.
Yeah,
he did. That's where he came from.
Yeah, he did. He covered was it Desert Storm?
I think so. May have been. I don't know.
I remember he talked about it on Pat.
Yeah,
he talked about it on his He was on Pat McAfee show and done it for like an hour talking, and he talked about how he started covering the war and stuff.
He says he's got 4 more years and he's going to retire. That'd be 30 years in WWE, and he's going to retire.
And you got to give it to Michael because when Jerry Lawler had his heart attack, and
that was something he covered as well was Waco. Michael Cole was part of covering that as well. I remember hearing about that on McAfee.
That's my dad's.
If you haven't seen it, Marcus, McAfee had Vince McMahon on there for like a good hour and a half, just talking a year or two ago.
It was really good,
and it was real good.
Had a real good interview with Brock Lesnar.
Yep,
he's had quite a few people on there.
Is that on YouTube or?
Yep. Yeah, you go to Pat McAfee show on YouTube, and it's all. You can find him on there.
The Vince one was fantastic.
You know, Pat McAfee and Buck Sexton are good buddies.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I'm pretty sure that's who. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who it was, because Buck got seats behind the commentating table the last time Raw or somebody was here. Pat McAfee wasn't there because he wanted to make contact with Pat. But yeah, when you see him at Warrior Pro in a few weeks, ask him about it. I'm pretty sure that's.
Well, I don't know a lot of the names from the 70s as far as referees. Billy Buzz was saying some of the rest from the 70s and the 80s.
Was that White a referee in the
80s? Maybe, yes.
Maybe 80s.
There's a Hickenbottom, because if you remember right, when they did Madison Square Garden, they said, your timekeeper is, and then they rambled off, and then your referees for this, and they rambled off 3 referees. And
of course, the twins.
Hebner and Earl.
And then the Morella, which was Gorilla Monsoon's son. I remember him a lot.
Joey. He died in a car wreck, too.
Yeah, died in a car wreck. They said that Gorilla never was the same.
Yeah, I'm a big Pat McAfee fan. I watch his show a lot of times. When I'll be doing my sports show. Sometimes I'll have his show. I'll have the sound down, but I'll be paying attention to it, and later on I'll watch it. I like his show. He gets a lot of good guests, and he's had Adam Cole. Adam Cole actually came in there and went crazy in his studio when they started that feud.
Yeah,
and stuff. So I mean, McAfee's always been a big pro wrestling guy. That was always been his dream, was to be a pro wrestler.
What about next Monday for a topic? We do some of our favorite wrestling angles, stories.
All right.
All of us come up with some, and then also
what favorite storylines?
Yeah, storylines, angles,
any era.
Any era, anyone. I tell you, the one I want to see is Mike King and the one that Mike and the guy we just had on, just retired.
Tommy Gabe?
Yeah, the one they talk about. I want to see that. The one where he was dragging, Mike was dragging his girlfriend all around. Now his wife all around. I want to see that.
I'll guarantee you that was good.
I'll guarantee you. They said that they had to help. Mike had to have police help him out of the place.
The guy that asked the question about the referee, does he have a favorite 70s or 80s referee?
What was the one dude from the 80s from NWA? It was real famous. He called all flares. I can see him.
Rocco Lubick was the WCCW ref.
Yeah, I remember Brocco. But there was a guy that did all the. He in the 80s during that big heyday, he did all the championship matches.
Tell you.
I can't think of his name.
I know Teddy Long refereed a while.
Yep, I can see him, that guy, but I can't think of his name.
Billy, do you have a favorite referee from the 70s and 80s. Maybe if you bring up a name, I'll know them or remember them.
Yeah. And then also, I was going to say some of what we think the greatest wrestling minds.
You already know who my number one is going to be.
Probably all ours.
How high do you put Vincent on that list?
He's in there.
Must
WWE
be-
would not be where it's at today if it wasn't for Vince McMahon. I know the guy has kind of fell off the wagon, it seems like, but we wouldn't be where we're at today if it wasn't for Vince McMahon and his mind. And
he's had a lot of bad ideas, but he's also had a lot of great.
He's had more hits than, I mean, his hits, the big ones,
Undertaker,
Grand Slams.
like Undertaker,
I mean,
Kane.
He's had a lot of losses, but they were small. I mean, didn't mean nothing. It didn't kill him.
The Gobblegookler or whatever the hell that was called.
Oh yeah, I mean, for his big hits, you can name 20.
That was going to be one of my storylines for next week.
Yeah, but his failure, that he overcome his failures with his big hits.
Yeah,
You know, that was the key.
this is high on that list.
He said he can't remember. He said he don't have a favorite ref. He said
I
he can't remember.
there's a Rusty Hinkabottom or something. He's announced on the Madison Market Square Arena when they ran. That's just the name I can remember being when they rambled those names off. Brock Lubick, of course, like I said, was WCCW.
Tommy Young
Yes.
was the one from the NWA that did a bunch.
Charles Robinson.
Yep, but I typed in NWA referee. He said Tommy Young came up.
Yeah, Robinson's been around for a long time.
Yeah, been a long
Give me
time.
another one. Danny Davis.
Yep.
Remember, he was a referee, and then he went to work with
wrestler.
What was the one in WCW that he ended up, I didn't even think he turned and joined NWO at one point.
Yeah, I know who you're talking. I can't
Patrick.
tell you what he's.
Mark Patrick? I know it's Patrick.
Yeah.
Something Patrick.
Yeah. Because isn't he the one that they fired?
They fired him. Well,
Yeah,
no,
but
the one
he-
that fired was a little bitty guy. He had cancer and died not too long after that.
The one that they done the storyline on, on TV?
Yeah, fired him on TV, run his wife and kid in, fired him on TV. And the dude really had cancer and he actually died 6 months later. I mean, Bischoff, come on. I mean, that was, and he said he wished he wouldn't have done it.
We can't sit and talk about this because this next week's, but Bischoff's on that list too. But anyhow.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
we'll stop or we'll be in the next week's subject before we get to next week.
So great wrestling minds. And I better write this down because half time I forget what I have to say.
Great stories.
Yep.
I wrote it down this time.
Okay. There's a lot of great storylines. Oh, man.
I don't know why, but this week I kept forgetting. I asked him 2 or 3 times. What's the topic for Monday?
Well, because he asked that, and I just threw it at him, and I didn't. He must have been taking a break at work or something because he came back and said, "Okay, we'll use both of them." So, okay.
Yeah, I was good with it. I was drawing a blank. And see, now today I come up with a 2, but just.
And if anybody's watching this and you've got an idea of something you want us to talk about, shoot, we'll talk about anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell stories about people trying to decapitate you. And
There we go. See, you know it's coming again, Chris. You're never going to live that down.
Well, no.
Hey, we got another show this weekend, so
He might try to get the job done in Kokomo. You heard it, Marcus. If I don't make it to the show, Kokomo, you know what happened.
Have you seen at Halloween time? They have one of those where you put a fake leg out of the trunk, like somebody's in the trunk. Shit, nobody think anything about it. You're like dangling out there. They just thought Chris stuck one of those.
Speaking of that, Dustin tells a story about when they broke the 4 horsemen in the cage broke Dusty's leg. He comes home with a cast on the whole time. I mean, the kids thinks he's got a broken leg. Well, then I don't know, Dusty's in the shower or whatever. He goes in and in the closet there's that cast. He took off that cast, had a split in it, and he was kayfabing them. It was all of his family, all the kids. Dustin said,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Hopefully that's on the box. If not, I'll have to watch it tomorrow. Sometimes they don't get it on there right away, but
it's probably the best one I've seen. I really enjoyed that Jake the Snake Roberts one. It's pretty sad, but it's
Well, I thought China's was dark.
Yeah, it
Very
was dark.
Did you watch Paige?
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that
Yeah,
one yet.
That
I'd
one,
like
she
to see
took
that
it to a very dark place.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
did.
So,
She
and,
did.
yeah, that one, I mean, they were really
Yeah,
hitting deep this year.
Yeah, she about didn't make it. Paige about didn't make it out.
Yeah.
And I seen an interview that one thing that she's already done in AEW that she wished she wasn't. One of the first promos she did, they fed her a line. Tony Khan did that. She's happy now that she's got a boss that listens to her because she never had that before. And she said it, and now she regrets it because she says it wasn't true. And she hates that she did that. She said that's the only thing that she regrets in AEW so far, but she wished she would have never done that.
Right.
Because hell, all that time she was under contract and didn't wrestle for 2 or 3 years. WWE paid her the whole time. Took care of her. And they offered to resign her. I don't think that they was going to put her back in the ring because
she was hurt.
She was concerned, but she's cleared. But I think you could go to enough doctors and get cleared if you really want to get cleared.
Oh yeah, that's obvious. You've got enough money. You could. Earl was good.
Oh yeah. Earl
did he pass, or was it his other? Was it his brother? I thought one of them Hebners just passed.
I think one of them did.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Come on.
What you got? Anything else?
Nope, I'm ready to go. Jump. You got to jump higher than that, buddy.
All right. We appreciate everybody joining us tonight. But this is a nice long episode.
Yeah,
tonight.
it was.
But
it was a good one.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube at GonzoSportsRoom. We greatly appreciate it. Also, like and follow on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all GonzoSportsRoom. That's where we post all the information about our upcoming shows. This week on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Scott Hewlett, who is from the Heated Shenanigans podcast. He also was a pro wrestler as well.
Yep.
He's going to join us Wednesday night at 6:30. And then on Saturday, we'll be in Kokomo, Indiana for
all of us will be in Kokomo Saturday.
If I make it. Chris.
You'll be there. You may be in the trunk, but you'll get there.
At least let me eat my barbecue before I get stuck out.
Yeah, got to have wings and chips.
You gotta have a final meal.
You can have one wing and one rib.
I want some brisket too.
Yeah, he goes brisket. We're the wing people. I'm the wing person.
I get wings too.
I like wings too. I like brisket as well, but I had a bunch of wings. We had wings the other night.
Yep.
And then had chicken again yesterday.
I don't know if you would like them, if you like breaded wings, but I found them at Walmart. They're smoked pecan wings.
Let me end the show and then we'll talk about wings.
Okay.
Let's end the show.
Go ahead and end it.
I'll see you guys. I'll be at the Dub Friday too, if anybody cares.
You're going to join us Wednesday with Scott?
Yes, I'll be on.
Okay. But so join us Wednesday for that. Saturday, ACW returns in Kokomo. I'm looking forward to that show Saturday night.
We've been waiting on this one.
And that's all we have this week so far.
Yep.
Besides our other sports shows. But we appreciate everybody joining us. Hope everybody has a great night. And we'll see you guys next Monday for another episode of G.W.R.
That'd be absolutely devastating.
This is Joey Owens' show. They've been trying to get me on this broadcast forever, and this is the worst damn broadcast I've ever been on. So you all can kiss my ass while I win this match.